Hello, fight fans, and welcome to the Combat Challenge podcast. My guest today is a welterweight athlete with over 15 professional fights to his name. He has competed on the prestigious levels promotions such as Cage Warriors and BAMA. He's also a jiu-jitsu brown belt under Professor Zimarcelo. Mr. Shah No Pain Hussain. Assalamu alaikum, my brother. So nice to see you.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Saif, for having me.
It's been a pleasure. I hope you like the introduction, brother.
I loved it. It reminds me of your emceeing days. You know what? You're a natural.
Jazakallah, brother. Jazakallah. The first question I've got to ask you, Brother Shah, is the name No Pain. How did that come about?
Yeah, No Pain came about basically, I think it was just a combination of what rhymed with Hussein, and it was through with a few teammates, close friends of mine. And, you know, it was either Mr. Pain or In Pain or No Pain, right? So we went with No Pain, but obviously as things progressed, you know, we realized the trade itself is actually, you know, In Pain sounds a lot better, which I was most of the time. So, but No Pain, that's where it came about, just with a few friends, like, you know, having a laugh and joke.
It does rhyme with it, brother, but it's good you didn't use stuff like, you know, Shah, so lame, Hussein, or Shah, to blame, Hussein.
Yeah, there was a Shah the Hurricane Hussein, but we nipped that in the bud because it was a bit WWE at the time. So we stuck with No Pain. Yeah, so that was the one.
Mashallah, you've had over 15 professional bouts in your MMA career. Can you share with me your martial arts journey from a young age, what sort of disciplines you were involved in and how you ended up where you are now?
All right. Funnily enough, Saif, I was actually a late starter in combat sports. You know, when you're talking martial arts and such, my first experience was boxing, which was at a young age, which was when I was 15. I sort of boxed at amateur level. I had jam jars as glasses back then, and unfortunately, you know, the doctors wouldn't sign me off for to have my first sort of amateur bouts. So I started off in boxing. Couldn't fight, and then I kind of like pursued off into other things, and track and field I found, which, and I was a 400-meter hurdler, 400 meters stroke 400-meter hurdler, sort of schools, county, national champion in that. So I represented Windsor and Eton Athletics Club from about 12, 13 up until 17, under 20s. So throughout school and whatever, it was more track and field. Held all the school records and whatever. So it was a shame I couldn't carry on the boxing because I really loved it. You know, the family background was boxing. My grandfather was a boxer in the army. And yeah, so it's a shame I couldn't carry that on. But then track and field came in play. And then as you sort of hit the teenage years, you know, you want to look good. You want to get that sort of summer body. And it was all about lifting weights and trying to get hench. So started lifting weights throughout the sort of teenage years, up until the early 20s. And then when I graduated from university, I literally got bored of lifting weights. I wasn't improving. I was only lifting X amount of weights. And the only thing that was going to make me improve was steroids or something illegal, which I wasn't going to do. So I decided to just stick to, you know, just lifting weights and cardio just to sort of stay fit. And then literally, martial arts came about in 2004, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I was actually a late starter in martial arts itself, even though I sort of did a bit of boxing at a younger age. And it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2004, which was in Luton, Dunstable, near Luton, where I was training. And yeah, that's when I first come across Jiu-Jitsu. And then literally because of my work, I was sort of contracting. I kept moving back home to my hometown of Slough in Berkshire. And you know, 2004, that's when I went down to the squash courts in my local sports centre, where there was about 8 or 9 BJJ athletes, majority of them blue belts, a couple of black belts, with a few mats, and that's when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Moving on from that, because I'm just trying to keep a track of the time scale and timeline of where we were going. And then from there, I found MMA because my coach, David Lee of Team Crossface, he was a blue belt back when I started. And obviously David sort of moved into MMA, and he started doing classes at the squash courts as well in Slough. So 2005, we started those classes, and that's when I started MMA, because I really, even though I quite like gi, I trained in the gi for a year, but then just seeing all the no gi stuff really appealed to me, especially when you put in the striking and you know, mixing it all up, and I quite like that. And so from 2005, 2004, I started training in MMA.
And Dave Lee, am I right in thinking, did he end up competing in the UFC?
Yes, he did. Yeah, Dave was a cage rage veteran back in the early days, and then he competed on UFC. I think he had 2 fights in the UFC. One was UFC 60 something, and the other one was the UFC 70 Nations Collide in Manchester back then. Yeah, so UFC 70, I think that was. So yeah, so Dave fought in the UFC as well. So you know, he had the experience, and he's a colourful character, and his style of teaching was quite unorthodox and fun. Obviously, because David Lee's coach is Eric Paulson of CSW, you know, in the States, and Eric's quite a big name out there. So his lineage was more CSW and Zé Marcelo Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and I was David Lee's student. Eric was his Shuto champion in Japan. Right. He was a light heavyweight champion, and he fought a load of sort of who are now seen as coaches in current UFC or ONE FC. Mighty Mass's coach, yeah, I can't remember his name now. He fought him back in the day. Eric was he was a stud, man. He was the man back then, and I think he even starred in Bloodsport 2 or 3. Bloodsport 3, I think he was one of the fighters who was actually competing in the tournament. Wow. So yeah, so Eric didn't quite fight in the UFC, but obviously he's got a rich background in combat submission wrestling and mixed martial arts, as well as a whole load of other traditional martial arts, Kali, stick fighting, and obviously Eric Paulson's coach is Danny Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's number 2. So strong lineage.
Yeah, for sure, brother, for sure. And Brother Shah, where was your first fight that you had as a professional, and who was it against? Can you remember?
Yes, my first fight, I think it was in 2007 or 2006. I didn't go down the route of the amateur side of things because it wasn't something which was around as much back then. And it was a show in Cambridge. It was called, I think it was a Cage Rage Contender show. And it was in Peterborough, which is like, I think it was like a 2.5, 3 hour journey from where I was at the time. And I took a whole load of people down there. And it was against a guy called Eric Sebarek, who was a French fighter. I can't remember what team he fought out of. My original opponent was a guy called something Mpamba, who ended up being a light heavyweight champion for Bellator years later. Yeah, Christian Mpamba, that's it. So when I got there, I found out he didn't turn up. So Eric Sebarek was there, and I ended up fighting him. I fought at light heavyweight, and I didn't know nothing about weight cutting and I was weighing around 87 kilos myself at the time, and I fought against this guy with no experience. I remember at the time the promoters back then, they said, "Oh, we've got this fight on. It's a light heavyweight fight. Do you want to fight?" And I just went, "Yeah, I've got people coming down, and I don't want to let people down, and I'll take the fight." And I remember they both looked at each other, and they kind of looked at me like, "You clearly don't know what you're doing, do you?" But yeah, it's an extra fight they've got for the fight card, and boof, So that was my first ever fight, and I lost that fight by armbar in the first round, and I learned a lot in that fight.
Well, to say that you competed at 87, am I right in thinking middleweight is only 3 kilos below, right?
That's right, yeah.
So,
it was. I mean, sorry, one thing I forgot to mention is my first fight. The camp I had was with a friend of mine who was a German Thai boxer, stroke jiu-jitsu guy who picked up skills and stuff. He was an Afghan. He was from Peshawar in Pakistan. Sorry, right? Solid guy, right? And he had really, really good skills. So I was kind of doing most of my training with him in that fight camp. But I sort of realized that I really needed to train with a team because there was only 2 or 3 of us training at that time. And I was really, it wasn't the fight camp fighters of today would sort of compete in or sort of, take part in. So it was a learning process from the fight camp to the actual fight to the result, which made me then sort of reassess and think, well, hang on a second. If I want to take this seriously, I'm going to have to kind of, start training properly with a proper MMA team, with more training partners, and get out of that comfort zone. So yeah, it was an interesting time and a good experience for the first fight.
And you train with a Pathan brother like myself, because we're from Mardan, which is only like an hour and a half away from Peshawar, from the northwest frontier of Pakistan. So
right.
Yeah, man,
Wow.
He must have been a cool dude if he was a Pathan brother. Must have been.
Yeah, no, he was really, really nice guy. Hard as nails. I think he spent most of his life in Turkey, so he had that Thai boxing background. Very old school mentality. None of this softness. It was all hardcore training. So he put me through my paces, but obviously where I was lacking wasn't really as such with the skill set. It was more training partners, more so.
So that was your first fight, and your last fight was on Superior Challenge 18 against Rostem Akman. Can you talk us through how that got?
Yeah, that was my last fight, December 2018 in Sweden on Superior Challenge. I fought again against a guy called Rostem Akman. I remember he was touted as being one of the prospects who they were kind of sort of put through, and obviously, with me and my record, I've always had like a 50-50 record, which has sort of gone up and gone down. So I've always been like a middleman there, or a gatekeeper even. So I think I knew it was a guy who, they're looking to sort of propel, and they want to put him against someone who, who's got an even record, which is fair play. And I took that fight, in Sweden, and yeah, it was a great show, great experience. The result didn't go my way. I felt it was stopped prematurely. Obviously, any fighters who step in the cage haven't put in the work, they'll always, if they've lost fairly, they've lost. But if they feel they've been maybe hard done by a little in some way, shape, or whatever, they'll always say so. That's, it was the last fight. It, didn't go down the way I wanted. It was in a beautiful country, nice location, really good show. But yeah, that was my last fight, and again, it was all part of that same journey, and that was a chapter which I finally sort of finished in Sweden.
Now you say, brother, that was your last fight. Was it your final fight? The only reason I asked that, are you tempted, are you itching to kind of dust off those MMA gloves, or are you looking at maybe the jiu-jitsu journey?
No, I think that's me done now, Safe. Every fighter, true in their heart, when they decide to retire, regardless of people who decide to come back again, for whatever their circumstances are, they have their own reasons, whether it's that, still wanting to prove something, or for finance reasons, or whatever. I always had a goal to retire before I was 40. I'm 41 now. I'm going to be 42 this year. I retired when I was 39. So that was always a plan. But when I did, and I kind of made my little announcement to, my friends and whatever, it was emotional. And a part of me was, I'm just going to say this just to keep the people at home happy. But really, that fire inside you, meaning, especially when you're watching MMA fights and shows, and you think, come on, man, I can still do, I can still do better than that. And I'm like 20 years older than you. It just gives you that urge to kind of like, come back. And even if I'm being honest, at that time, obviously, I sort of settled in with the management. I said, Chris Clark of the fight agency, I said, Chris, that's me done now. And, he wished me the best. And I was still looking, and every time there was stuff popping up on social media, welterweight needed, welterweight, I was like, should I throw my name in the hat? Should I do it? So that urge was still there, and it was still there like a good, strong year later, because I was still training, and I was still trying to keep my weight down just in case, but you know what? Alhamdulillah, everything happens for a reason, and I think it was a good time to sort of stop, because you realize your body's going through a lot of changes. You're not keeping up with some of the guys in the gym as you used to. The 2-3 sessions a day are now becoming, one. As you're getting through, even if you're partially injured, and that's throughout fight camps. I used to train hard, man. I take my fight camps abroad. So there was, sponsorship involved for me to sort of go over, which I was so lucky to have. So I was taking it dead serious. But you're presented with these opportunities to go away, a couple of months on end to train abroad, and then you realize, hang on a second, the body's not cashing those checks like like it used to, and then you got to question yourself on that as well. So it was a combination of things. But answering your question, the desire was always there, but I think as time's gone on now, I've become a lot more happy with that decision now. And again, once a martial artist, always a martial artist. I'm still training. Jiu-jitsu is my target. My first goal back was to win, some national title. I won the British Nogi in my first year as a brown belt, which was great. And it's just an accolade to have. It may not be big in everyone's eyes. It's just a small national competition, but for me, it was a start of something new. So that was towards the end of 2019, and then from 2020, things have just changed. But I am planning on doing jiu-jitsu competitions. I'm definitely going to be doing IBJJF competitions, and I'm definitely going to be doing another trip to the States to do the Worlds or the Pan Ams, Masters, gi, no gi. I'm going to do it. You've only got one life, and you've got to live it to the most as you can.
Oh, you should do it, brother. And also you can channel that desire, that competitive desire. It's there, isn't it, brother?
Of course, yeah, 100%. I'm always, I'm always involved in martial arts. I'm still, watching the UFC, messing up my sleeping schedule, right? When it's on at stupid o'clock. I'm still, keeping an eye on what's happening, in UK MMA. What's happening with the community, even like amateur fighters, up and coming fighters. I'm just kind of looking up, see what they're doing. We are all first and foremost fans of MMA, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So you have to start off by knowing, what's still going on around you. So I'm still very much in with the loop. But there's amazing opportunities to talk to people like yourself about martial arts and, what's going on. And it just makes it even more worthwhile.
Oh, I appreciate that, brother. Now, I'm aware that you were doing some teaching with Blackbeard MMA and also First Reaction MMA. Are you still involved in that? And if so, how much do you teach down there?
Yes, I'm still involved. Blackbeard MMA, obviously, before the pandemic hit, I was down there coaching MMA intermediate advanced class. I was also teaching fighter specific classes only. And then through that, at First Reaction MMA, because it's Birmingham based, what I did was I'm going over there every so often, quite often as well, doing seminars there, which is great, working with Aki Zaman and the rest of the guys down there. Both facilities really, really nice. Blackbeard MMA have just moved into a brand new facility, a lot bigger, 2-3 floors. And likewise with First Reaction MMA, they've got all the facility there. And it was people who had reached out to me. Obviously, my friend Naman Khalid, who runs Blackbeard MMA, he asked me to come on board, a long time ago, and we started off in a garage like most people do, and it was just a chance for me to experiment with coaching. Meaning, is this something which I'm familiar with, which I can get comfortable with? And I'd rather do it, in a class of say 5-6 people in a small area than try to take on like 15-20 people. Who are going to have different, experiences, different knowledges, and I realized that my breakdown in the moves when I'm teaching came quite naturally. I could pick things up quite quickly, and I quite enjoyed it, and I could see the results. And when you see the results, that's when you think, maybe this is something which I can do. And then the brother Aki Zaman from First Reaction MMA reached out to me and said, "Oh, would you mind coming and doing a seminar? I'd love to have you here." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Look, I'm always popping up to Birmingham. I've got family that I'm originally from Birmingham. I was born there, so I'm always popping there. I'll do it." And he said, "Oh, how much?" I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm experimenting with this coaching thing. I'll come." And he was like, "Really? You're not charging them?" I said, "No, man, it's cool." And that's when that relationship started there, and it was all on good terms. And I've just been back there since, and I'm involved with both teams now. And I realized, there was a gap in the market for clubs who, like grassroots clubs, especially community-based clubs, who may not necessarily want to branch out as such. So they saw me as an opportunity to sort of pick that knowledge, everything from, just normal coaching, training, to dieting, getting fights prepared, what they needed. So it became a whole like process. And through that, I set up Enigma Fight Management, which is my management firm. It's a little baby. That's all it is at the minute. And I've got 5-6 amateur fighters on board, and some promising talent. But it's a way for me to kind of guide these fighters to their next sort of step, and to see where it takes them. And it's just to kind of give back to the community on the management side. But yeah, it's been awesome, and it's been a really, really good 7 years of coaching now. And it helps me as well. It helps you sort of the repetitions in your own head, what you've picked up, to maybe show. And when you're drilling it, when you're showing people it, automatically it's coming back to you. So when you're rolling or drilling, whatever, you're training your own mind.
And Mashallah, that's what I was going to say is, as a coach, would it be fair to say that you kind of fine tune your skills and you kind of perfect things because you've got to really break it down and dissect it, right?
Yeah, that's right. As a fighter, it was literally a case of just doing the session, whatever your coaches have shown you, you're doing, and most times as a fighter, what you do is you'd finish, obviously whatever's going on in your private life or your work life or whatever, you kind of think, okay, right, as soon as you get out of the gym, you know what, I need to set my alarm, I've got to get up for work, I've got to get you're thinking nothing but martial arts. That was my situation. Obviously pros who do it full time for a living, it's different. But as a coach, what I realized is you have to get it right first time, and it's very important to sort of get the fine details in your head, because you're showing these skills to other people. If you're not doing it right, it's just going to look bad on you, and you're not going to. You are not a coach. A coach has to prepare. More than the people there. You're there to set an example. You're there to show scenarios. You're there to break down moves. You're there to answer questions. So it's not just this is how you do a Kimura. You got to show variations. You got to show the defense to it. You got to show how to counter it. There's so many elements of it, which I think's amazing, because it really gets your brain working, and it's been a blessing. It really has.
And mashallah, you're coaching now, but there was a time when there were other coaches and mentors in your life. Is there any of coaches or mentors that have played a significant role whilst you've been in your martial arts journey? And if so, who and why have they played that role?
Yes, I'll start off with the order of like where I worked through my MMA journey. So first was Nozad Khan, who put in that thing of hard grit, hard work. You can't, if you hurt yourself, you got to carry on, i.e. no pain. Right. So
was that that Patan brother?
Yeah, that was him. Right. So that was instilled from him. And there was times when I was like, come on, man, I'm hurt. I can't really, there was no such thing in his book, it was to a degree, but you have to carry on. If you want to fight, you got to do this. So the grit of it came from him. Moving on, David Lee, he's been a massive inspiration to me, both as a friend, fighter, fellow fighter, teammate, and coach. So, under Team Crossface. So, David Lee's been a massive. He's been an influential figure on me, in my martial arts journey. And obviously, Zé Marcelo and all my, because obviously Zé Marcelo, he started off where he did, meaning Slough, Milton Keynes, and one other place back in the day, and now it's become a worldwide affiliation. So Zay's all over the place, all over the world. But just seeing these people from what they started to where they've become and what they've grown is amazing. So they're the three coaches who I can honestly say that have had a massive impact on my journey.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that with us, my brother. What's a day in the life of Shah Hussain? If you can talk us through, what do you do in a normal day, and do you get times to train? And if so, where do you do that training?
Yes, a typical day in my life consists of getting up in the morning, 5 o'clock a.m. I leave my house for about 5:30. Get to my workplace in central London for about 6:15. When I get to work, I pray my Fajr namaz, and then after that, that sets me up for the day. And at the minute, because of the pandemic, I'm working less hours, so I'm done by about 12:30, and I'm home for 1:30 p.m. So I've literally got the rest of the day to myself. So I would think, but then lo and behold, there's homeschooling to do, which doesn't finish until about 3 o'clock now. Yeah, because so I'm just finishing off the last bits and pieces. I take over from the wife. She can't, when I'm there, she just runs out of the house. Right? So I finish off my duties there. And then what I do then is I'll probably get some sleep because I've been up throughout the whole time. And then I'm ready, fresh for training. And I have to train because I need to sleep again, to get tired enough to sleep again. So, yeah, and training because of the pandemic has literally consisted of kettlebells. I've invested in a load of kettlebells. Dumbbells. I've bought dumbbells and just resistance band stuff at home. And that a training session could be either lifting or swinging at home, or it could be cardio. It could be some hill runs. And yeah, that's about it really. I'm just kind of trying to keep the weight down, keep ticking over. I've since lockdown 1, I've kind of put on about 10 kilos in weight. Yeah,
No.
yeah, honestly, and I can't even see where most of it's gone. That's the worst thing, if you can see like a massive belly or whatever, I think it's gone all into the legs, it's crazy. But I'm staying on top of it, and I'm trying to stay fit, stay healthy, keep up my zinc and my vitamin D, and literally just can't wait until things are back to normal, and we can then carry on training with the guys who we see as our brotherhood, as our teammates, and just things to go back to normal. Because nothing beats being, whether it's punched or kicked in the face or chucked out. You can't get that adrenaline from anywhere else. And I'm sorry, but lifting weights and just doesn't beat it. I mean, even for that short time of period where gyms were open again, my gym now, which I've been a member of about 20 odd years, it's all done on an app now, and you get 45 minutes. You've got to pre-booking the slots on the app. So the whole flexibility is gone. And that's why I've literally, throughout lockdown 1, I've been investing in a load of equipment, whether it's bench racks, Olympic back weights. I'm slowly getting it all in because I think I'm gonna have to build a super gym at the back of the house, man. I'm gonna have to have a setup there, and it's not just for me, but for the kids as well. Because obviously, I want my kids to sort of do martial arts, and then I think that's going to be their starting point. Because the way things are going, I don't know when they can, we'll be able to get back on the mats because they keep changing things. And yeah, it doesn't beat, nothing beats martial arts in terms of fitness.
Yeah, for sure. And martial arts is good that you're getting yourself tired on an evening so that you can get up again and you're still getting some sort of exercising, right?
Yeah, very important, just to keep you mentally focused, physically focused, and obviously just keeping up my prayers and just trying to stay spiritually focused as well. I think the combination really helps. And I think, it's very important that people kind of, don't, it's very difficult because of the current climate, but I think sometimes we need to take a step back and just breathe a little and just, I think there's always someone in a worse situation than us out there, and I just count my lucky stars that, I'm blessed that I'm not in a worse situation than I can be, whether that's health wise, financial wise, or whatever. But it's all bad times that I'm sure we'll see light at the end of the tunnel.
So we've touched briefly on your first fight that you had, and then you talked in detail about your last fight. Of all the fights that you've had, Brother Shah, which has been the most rewarding? It doesn't have to be one that you won. It doesn't have to be a financial gain. Is there one that you maybe had to overcome some adversity? Is there something that you could share with us?
I'd say, I said there was one fight which was I was just trying to think of the guy's name. Thomas Jessing. He was a Danish guy who I fought. He was a little more less experienced than me, but he was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu back then, and he was they were seeing him as a prospect in Denmark. So I fought him, and that was probably the first time where I felt I did my ground game justice, because honestly, because I've had 26 pro fights in total on my resume, and out of all of them, that's the one which I thought, I came out thinking, I did my ground game justice, because other fights, whether they've been wins or losses, whenever I come out of a fight, your coach being your coach, or David being David, is always like, why did you do this at this time? You should have done this, and just made things easy for myself. Yeah, I could have won the fight, but it did not make a difference. And I've always had that in my head, thinking, you know what, I should have done that right. I should have done that right. But everything kind of fell in place for that fight. I was expected to win that fight, because on paper I was more experienced. But it went the whole 3 rounds. I won in a decision, but it was the ground game which I was more pleased with. I kind of made all the right kind of moves where I wanted them to, and that was probably one of the fights which was more towards the end of my MMA journey, which I could kind of think back on and think, you know what, I was happy there, and then I think if only like all the other performances were like that, but yeah, that was probably the one that came to mind.
Now, not many of our viewers may be aware of this, but there's another tool in your tool bag, brother. I'm aware that you started doing some acting, and there was one where it was like a main role you played as the bull in Tony Two Shoes. How did that come about, the acting side? And then tell us a little bit about Tony Two Shoes.
Okay, so during lockdown 1, obviously, when I mentioned earlier that I, after retiring from MMA in December 2018, that was a year where I kind of took away and I started just doing jiu-jitsu, but I was still 50-50 with MMA. And it kind of, then we hit lockdown 1 in March of 2020. And I was just thinking, what do I want to do now? And honestly, believe it or not, I was, even because of like the courses I did at college and university or whatever, I thought, you know what, why don't I just join the services as a reserve, right? And I brought up like, I think there was the Marines I looked at, and there was the the Marines and the Navy. And a lot of the reserve roles, the upper age limit was kind of like finishing at about 40. So I thought, you know what, because I just needed something just something to do in my spare time. And I thought, you know what, it looked good on your CV as well. And you know what, it'll be a proud moment for the parents. I mean, if they could see that, that the son's joined the military or whatever, or got some sort of accolation with that, that'd be good. And I thought, let's just do that. And then that, I saw the age limit, so I thought, you know what, this isn't working the way I want it to work. It's maybe not meant to happen. And I've got a friend of mine, his name's Sami Kareem. He's a British Yemeni. And he's been an actor for about 15 years. He's been in these industry. He's done a lot of work with a lot of big productions around the world. And I got talking to him. He was actually training at Black Belt MMA. He was one of the students there as well. And he's like a few years, 4 or 5 years older than me. And I mentioned it to him. I said, "Oh, do you reckon I could do okay?" And back then, when we were training as normal, he said, "Oh, well, yeah, sure, you can, but it's hard work." I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then I got in contact with him during lockdown 1. He said, "Shah, what I want you to do is just research." So I researched the industry. I spent, honestly, about 2 weeks just solid researching. And I thought, okay, this doesn't sound as easy as it looks. And then I thought, right, let's get the ball rolling. And then I kind of thought, I did an online acting course with, I can't remember what the company was, but it was based up in Manchester. It was a 4-week course. Finished that, and I thought, okay, now I've got a grasp understanding of it. This stuff is not easy, right? There's a lot of talking to yourself. There's a lot more reading to do. Trying to get in touch with your emotions. Being able to sort of act, on the second. There's a lot of practicing to do. And then when lockdown eased up, I then enrolled onto a 3-year drama acting course. I've done 1 year of that now, so there's 2 more years of that left. But part of that is, what you need to do is obviously have a actor's resume sorted, and just get in contact with some of the sites online where you can sort of sign yourself up to. Just put some pictures up and whatever. And I did that. I created a few profiles, sent them off, didn't think anything of it. I thought, I'm still in training. And then lo and behold, applied for a few parts, and they said, okay, can you self-tape? Can you do a self-tape audition? Because obviously it was lockdown. They weren't inviting people in to actually audition live in person. And I did a few. Then the director was like, okay, can you do it in a foreign accent? That was new to me. So I had to do it in like a Middle Eastern Turkish accent. say the parts. And the whole process, just learning lines, was so stressful, and just repeating it. I mean, I was going mad in my house just trying to learn. It just reminded me of my college and university days again. Just trying to learn stuff from textbooks. And this is scripts you're being given. And then trying to put an accent on top of that was like, it was throwing me off. But I did it. I sent it off, and they loved it, and they said, right, here's the filming dates, and let's get you on set. And there's a load of other actors scheduled in for different days, and we did the project. It took a few weeks to do, and lo and behold, these guys, they've put it together now, and I think it looks amazing. I thought they've done a really, really good job, and they're the future of British filmmaking. And they've put something like that out. It was supposed to be like it's a short film, but based on like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, where you've got like that gangster comedy thing. There's no bad language in it as such, and they wanted to keep it clean, so it's opened up to a more of an audience. So it started there, really. That's where the acting journey started, and that's where we ended up me playing the bull in Tony Two Shoes, which was good. And I've got a load of projects and stuff which I have been working on since last year, which are still waiting to be released, because you don't realize that. I mean, you can probably relate to this, but 2 minutes of filming, editing can sometimes take a lot longer than you think, especially when you're trying to put it all together in a film. Just staying patient there, and still active, still auditioning for parts. I'm doing an audition this Saturday coming. There's things in a pipeline, and just building up the contacts in the industry. That's what it was all about. And again, eating humble pie, just learning. I'm still a white belt in this acting game. I'm still learning. I'm still making contacts, but I think I worked quite hard. I kind of really pushed it, and I was lucky enough to get a lot in a short space of time, and that's what keeps me going. Thinking, you know what, stick to it. Let's see what comes of it. You've got a 3-year plan in place, and it's another thing on on the CV just to say, well, yeah, I tried that. Either it worked out, or I'm signing autographs, or I'm picking up a BAFTA in the future.
Well, the thing is, Brother Shah, it's interesting you mentioned Guy Ritchie, because when I watched this Tony Two Shoes, it gave that sort of feel. And I'll give you an example. There's the one where the Uber driver comes up and he's brought the food, but he's forgot the French fries. And it's little clips like that. You're like, and that's what reminded me of a Guy Ritchie sort of film, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the elements of that were great. He's Corey, the guy who played him. He's actually a BJJ athlete as well. So there's quite a few people from all walks of life, in this industry now. What I realised, and one of my first questions to my friend when I started, or when I was looking to start, was I said, Sammy, do you not think I'm a little too old? I mean, come on, man. I mean, and he was like, nah, bro. He goes, no. He goes, listen. He goes, there's a market for everything, and it's not like back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, where all it was just cinema. If you look at the different platforms available now, there's Prime, Amazon Prime, there's Netflix, there's obviously your normal movies. There's so many of these platforms coming up now where they're trying to get people to subscribe on, so that only you can watch their stuff on their platform. That's how it's all becoming now.
For sure. I mean, I did a podcast with Dean Thomas, who you'll know, ex-UFC fighter. He's on that Dana White looking for a fight. And he was also on about his acting career. And when you mention different platforms, he uses a different platform, and he's got a movie which is similar sort of timescale, 20 to 25 minutes, and it's called Sandbox Memories. And it's similar thing to what you folks are doing. So you're right, there is that platform out there for people, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I watched that Dean Thomas, your podcast with him. It was really, really interesting, because I could relate to a lot of the stuff you were saying. And and only if you're in the industry, you realize how difficult it is. A lot of people from the outside think, oh, he's like the next superstar now. But to get there, you're up against hundreds and thousands of people. It's the competition is unreal. So when Dean was talking about the likes of him, Rashad Evans, and who else was it? I can't remember. There was another MMA fighter who he said they're all working on this project, because he said himself, we're not waiting for parts, because he's a creative. He's a performer. He wants to sort of put the footage out there for someone to think, well, hang on a second, that little guy, was a funny guy in that film, or he was quite serious. And you won't believe some of the stories I've heard where how people have got parts. Because I did some stuff at Pinewood Studios, which is just down the road to me, and you hear like I think it was one of the Pirates of the Caribbean films where there was one taxi driver. He was driving one of the casting directors. The casting directors are the people who picked me, and he's just driving along, and he had a foreign accent, and he sort of went, you know what? Would you want to be in a film? And this guy thought nothing of it. He didn't know, and he ended up playing one of the main parts there. He went away to wherever they filmed it, some really nice place in the world. Got paid a whole load of money. I think he came in the second film as well. He had a second part in there, and then you never heard of him because he made some money, and then he thought, this is not me. He's probably just driving taxis again now. But it just shows luck plays a massive part in it. So where Dean Thomas was talking about, we want to get our own content out there. Totally understand that. There's a project which it's not greenlit yet, but for next month, end of this month, which and the director sort of said, Shah, he goes, could you help out on the producing side? And I was like, whoa. I thought, listen, I've not done this before, I'm just starting off in acting. He goes, yeah, but because I was so, I was sending him like my COVID test, acting on set, which I've done or whatever. He saw proactivity. So he thought, well, you know what? This guy's on it and I need help. Do you mind helping me? And you'll be down as a producer. So in the credits of the film, you'll be down as an actor and producer. And it's all experience. So if people see that, and I'll take it with both hands, that opportunity. It's stuff to put on your CV, stuff to grow, and growth is good.
Now, mashallah, you're doing so much. You've got the acting side. You've done the MMA as an athlete, as a competitor. You're doing the jiu-jitsu side as well, and also you're teaching MMA. One thing I want to ask you, Brother Shah, if there's other people, because mashallah, you're quite far up on the conveyor belt when it comes to MMA. If there's other people who are on that conveyor belt, but somewhere down, who are wanting to compete on a professional level, through your knowledge and experience of MMA and competing, what advice would you cascade down to them?
The first thing I'd say is make sure you're training at a reputable gym. Check out the instructor, check out their credentials, make sure that they've if you're looking at, because obviously if the parents are invested in the child's martial arts, or if they're paying themselves, they don't want to be paying a fraud or a fake or join up a McDojo. So I think the first most important thing is do your due diligence, check out the instructor's credentials, and then sort of try out trial class. Don't think that just because you're training at a martial arts gym or an MMA gym that you have to be an MMA fighter. It's not about that. It's about getting on the mats, picking up skills, skills which could help you even before you become a champion or an MMA fighter. Enjoy the process. You have to enjoy martial arts. If you don't enjoy martial arts, there's no point doing it. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you're in the wrong sport, and you will get hurt. Whether that's training or in competitive professional fighting. So make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and just enjoy the process. It literally is a process, and be prepared. If you want to be serious about it, be prepared to make it a lifestyle. It has to be part of your lifestyle. You cannot love something if it's not part of your lifestyle. If you don't enjoy doing it. And I think it's very important to listen to your coach. Your coach will tell you when it's right. If you want to fight, or if that's what your aspirations are, your coach will tell you when you're ready. Don't just jump the gun and try to compete with other people who may be the same age as you or younger, who are already fighting on that platform. They've started their own journey. This is you. I started martial arts, MMA, jiu-jitsu at 24, 25. I was a late starter, me. I wasn't no spring chicken, and it was there for me. I had to sort of enjoy it. So you're never too old. You can start at whatever age and do it for the right reasons. And like I said, let your coach know if you want to compete or fight. Let him know or her know that you're ready. And make sure the most important thing is make sure you get that amateur experience. If you are looking to compete competitively, go for the amateur ranks. Make sure you get. I always put down from my fight is, you know, I want you to have at least 10 to 15 amateur fights before you even think about fighting professional. And the beauty of it is that some of the kids are like, well, sure, you know, so-and-so is doing fight camps abroad. I'm like, yeah, well, he's still an amateur fighter, right? So what's that telling you? You know, because they want to be the best in their field. So they're putting fight camps in like pros, going abroad, investing the time and the money. You know, you have to invest in the money. You know, if you've not got sponsorship, you have to find that money. And you know, it's all progression. It's all, you know, you have to go to seminars. You have to pick up knowledge. You know, it's very, very important. Invest the money and time, you know, and, you know, go explore the world, do what you need to do. You know, another one of the things which I tell my young fighters is, even though they're training with me, if they're paying me their subs, or paying, you know, my friend Harded the subs, it's a case of, we know, you know, the loyalty is there. You know, go different places, go to different gyms, spar with different people, train with different people. You know, yeah, you might end up fighting these guys somewhere down the line, but it's all experience. It's all, you know, it's all getting out of your little pond. If you're the big fish in your small pond, you know, that's not good. You know, you need to go out there and train with better people. And I welcome that, and I encourage that too for any young up and coming fighter.
Jazakallah Shah, that's really, really in-depth knowledge that you've shared with us, and I really appreciate that, brother. Brother Shah, Jazakallah for your time. I really, really appreciate, you know, for you sharing your knowledge and experience with us. And inshallah, I look forward to seeing you on future podcasts, my brother.
Inshallah, I'll look forward to it. Thanks, Saif, for having me. I love the podcast. Keep them up, and all the best with it.